There are people who come to Baycrest to die, but that's a very small minority. The vast majority of people come to Baycrest because they can't live independently. And that's a much more interesting way of beginning to think about approaching death. And increasingly they come because they're cognitively impaired. They can't think about things. And very often people who are cognitively impaired are not thinking about death. They're thinking about debility. It's a death for the family, but not necessarily a death for the person. So it may be that the relatives whose family comes into Baycrest are thinking about their relative's death, but the person themselves tends not to be thinking about that. I think that thinking about your own death is different than thinking about death. Death is part of the equation, and there are people who think about it all the time. So, for example, one of my colleagues, who's the rabbi there, attends deaths all the time, and that's part of his work. But his attending deaths isn't attending the death of the person, it's attending the family's response to it. The relatives of people who come into Baycrest feel like they're giving their parent or their relative over to an institution where they will be dying. So I think that that's the moment, that's the critical moment for them. It's the moment of institutionalization rather than the actual moment of death.